everyone, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all in a good health and welcome to our webinar. It's an honor to have you in here with us tonight, together with Omah Library, to the third session of Contextual Method Architecture discourse class with the title Interiority, Injecting Architecture. Already present in our midst our speakers this evening, Mr. Keat from Keat Design and President of Society of Interior Designers Singapore. For that reason, we will have the session in English today, accompanied by Kak Rilrich Sharif, who will help moderate to the event. And allow me to introduce myself too. My name is Nirma from we will be the host for tonight's event. And next, I want to remind all the participants to change the username with the format C straight registration and name of participant. Then, while waiting for the main event to start, you can submit testimonials from our event via bit.ly/testimony-omah. As shown for the participants who may be attending the Omah Library event for the first time, I would like to introduce a little about what Omah Library is. Omah Library, with the philosophy of home for restless spirits, aims to be a forum that facilitates access to architectural literacy and become a meeting point between students, academics, and practitioners. Book writing and editorial is done in Omah with the spirit of sharing knowledge. Through literacy, we try to start questions that answer the various challenges that exist in the field of architecture. Starting from the discussion of theory, history, criticism, method, investigations, as well as archiving and tracing architectural work. We have uploaded some of the webinars that we have previously held on our website. You can check through the website memahami@wordpress.com. There are 4 classes that have been uploaded, including Perjalanan Mengenal Indonesia, which discusses various kinds of archipelago architecture, and then 7 do and don'ts discourse, which has various things in architecture, ranging from philosophy, theory, history, and etc. And then criticism or criticism that discusses approach to architecture. And then form class from the previous week's session, you can read the summary and it's being processed for us to follow later on the website. And then for the next event is part of Contextual Method class. We are now in the third of 7 class sets for Contextual Method Part 1 class event. And in the next week, there will be Albert Pramono with the theme Future Fabrication. And then also, there is Flora Hardy about bamboo context, and then Marcus Rosowich about bamboo engineering, and the last is Paulus Mintarga about build. For those of you who are still interested in taking the next class, please access bit.ly/omah_cm1 or contacts or things. Furthermore, there is also Darah Muda class, which accommodates young professionals who work in the field of architecture to share their ups and downs in this profession. There has been 1 class held out of 5 classes. The second, with Ismail Solehuddin as the speaker, will be held tomorrow night. For those of you who are interested, registration is still open by visiting bit.ly/omah_muda3. As for the contextual method itself, before. It was opened by Mr. Singgih Kartono, who told his story in his village in Temanggung to create product design considered very new, especially for the village community, and help the people there to gain pride in their work. Then last week there was Pak Eko Prawoto who talked about ordinary architecture, be creative and critical of the context around us. Then in this session we will have Mr. Keat Ong. Mr. Keat Ong with Interiority, Injecting Architecture. And without further ado, I will invite Kak Rich as the moderator of the event.
Hello, thank you for assisting us in the tonight. Is Keat Ong, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, okay. I'll just start to introduce you, Keat Ong, as one of our lecturer for today. And then we'll read some of your synopsis. Keat Ong graduated with a Bachelor of Architecture, honors from Keat Ong graduated with a Bachelor of Architecture, honors from Curtin University of Technology, Australia. And he was invited to the Golden Key Honors Society, and he's current president of Society of Interior Designers and founder of Keat Ong Design, which specializes in interior design and architectural design consultations. And he's a multi-awards winning designer, has been named one of the Asia's top designers in Singapore 2014, and Designers of the Year 2016 and 2017 from the famed Interior Design magazine. And Keat Ong has appointed chief judges and jury members for many well-known awards, A Design Awards in Italy, Interior Design Award, Hong Kong, and so on. At his busy schedule, Keat Ong is here tonight to share us about the Injecting Architecture. Injecting Architecture from the Keat Ong point of view is a design methodology for designers to explore and extract the three-dimensional quality of a given space, allowing one to stretch the imaginations and execute the design from an alternative viewpoint. If I can say the interpretation of this synopsis, that usually we have like a protocol of the design, like a form follow form, and we just need to how we structurize all of the methodology if we want to explore and extract the space itself. Is it about art? Is it about the compositions? And is it about the imagination, or is it about the fantasy? And how to execute it? And it's very interesting part to understand the context of the mind in the realm of the design. So I think Platonic meaning your archetypes, your thinking, your mindset, your fantasy, your imaginations. So before this, we discussed the design in more like a rural basis, more into like the design into more like a more sensitive and critical approach. And right now, I suppose we can see a lot of creativity from the Keat Ong how to superimpose the design from his point of view. He's active in the professor in China Academy of Art, which is quite interesting to see some of the approach in how to integrating art and design. So without waiting for a long time, I think let's enjoy Keat Ong's presentations. Yes, Keat Ong, could you please share the slides, and we'll just test it a bit and we can just start.
Sure. Thanks, Real Rich, and thank you to Omah Library for the invitation as well. And a very good evening to designers, design friends, design teacher, and practitioners from Indonesia. So a very good evening to all. Okay, just an extension to the very good introduction that Real Rich has given. I've been working for more than 20 years in practice in architecture and interior design, especially interior design. And I've been teaching for almost 15 years now as well. Yeah, so in fact, the topic tonight, Injecting Architecture. Are you able to see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Somehow there's a blue line on my screen. I'm not sure whether that is it your side or my side? There's one blue line that cut across the screen.
Please wait, Keat. Can we please wait. Guys, can you try? Is it like the annotation or? Yes, I can see it, Keat.
Yeah, but it's not my side, the blue line. Okay, can I let me unshare and share again?
Yes, probably it's one of the bug in the system.
Okay.
Yes, it's clear now.
Right. Okay, that's good. Yeah, we have a bit of OCD, yeah. So okay. Anyway, how do this topic come about? Injecting architecture. So throughout my practice and teaching, right? Especially when I was teaching, and I realized a lot of students. By the way, I'm the visiting professors, as well as adjunct and examiner for more than half a dozen schools in Asia, in China as well, and realized that there's a lot of interior design practitioners that are still doing design in a very two-dimensional way. So for more than 20 years in my practice, this has been one of the formula that I am using, when I visualizes a space, whether I'm approaching architecture or interior design. So the thing is, 3 years or 4 years back, I decided to accumulate some of this project with the methodology that I have been using in practice, and to write up a book. And that's how this injecting architecture comes about, because the whole logic of this is to allow the user to kind of envision yourself as when this is coming from architecture approach and applying it to an interior space. So I wanted the designers to start visualizing that you are in an environment, viewing the indoor as the outdoor, and then viewing at this picture to formulate your own interior architecture, from the interior space that are given. So your big space could be the terrain, and then the volumetric forms becomes the architecture. So I will explain further. Okay, but first and foremost, to start with, I touch a bit on the transition of the profession, and don't worry about the page numbers, because this is the book that I'm going to publish by the end of the year. So these some of these are extract from the book itself. Yeah. So I touch on things like the status of interior designers, that the interior design, in short we call IDs. The IDs are getting kind of more recognition now in the built environment, and alongside the architects. So I also explained that ID are no longer a second fiddle to the architects nowadays. So it play an important role, if not more important than maybe even architects in some of the cases that we have been involved in, especially a lot of the projects that I was doing was in China. Yeah. So, and I also touched on the explorer versus the detective approach. In design, I think we belongs to kind of both, because architects or designers, we are all investigative by nature. So the thing is, but what's the difference between explorer and detective? So when we are given a set of brief, we need to do some case studies, or even for foreign projects, you may even need to be on site, to study the culture and things like that. Like for example, if you are doing a museum in another country that is outside your familiarity. Like for example, for me, a Singaporean doing a Chinese museum in one of the Chinese city. So you have to be able to understand the backdrop, the kind of culture from many aspects, not just the geography and history and human human behavior as well, and the kind of culture that exists. So those are the investigative part, and there are only one answer to the detective findings, right? So like for example, a detective is finding the murderer to a case, so there can only be one answer. There are no multiple answers. But for explorer, that's where the interesting part comes in. So where we start to explore the different methodology and a different way of expression, how we're going to do the design. So there are unlimited ideas and unlimited possibilities. So I always like to say there are always 1001 method to do one thing. So that is where the explorer spirit comes in. So for good designer, I believe we need to have both of these spirits. They are encased into us. Okay, then we touch on things like form, space, and time. So time is what most of us usually forget, when we are creating a space, when we are doing space making. So form, as we understood clearly, form is a form, right? So if from this diagram, you could see that that square, the black line, the square box that the guy is in, it's actually, the space is formulated by another 6 more volume. So you are viewing actually one part of the volume in the space itself. So they are actually 6 volume forming that particular space that the person is in at the moment. So that created, the form created the space. And time, what is time? Time is actually the duration. Like for example, if you're creating a space, can the space be always serving the same function 24/7? No, right? So these are the things that we need to take into consideration. As the time moves on, the function may adjust or transform. Right, then this is another way of looking at the form, space, and time. So if you see from the same space that the person is in, right, there are various different forms that we can imagine and create within the space itself. So now, just now it's form, forming, space. So now it's within space, there are forms again. Right, then this methodology, in fact, touches on these 2 very interesting, they pronounce the same, but they are different. So when we usually what we see in architecture are what we call parasitism or parasite. So parasitic action, it's something that I feel is not good, especially when we are coming from an interior design point of view. We don't want to become a parasite to the architecture. So we formulated something that is an evolution of the parasitism to become a para-citizen. So there's 2 words to it. Para means to coexist, and then citizen means that like you being a citizen of your country. So this is supposed to be a symbiotic way of creating something new. So that's the new term that I coined, called para-citizen. Okay, then creation of forms. I think these are what most of us who have gone through architecture school or design school would have been very familiar with, the creation of forms, right? So these are in a method of in a manner of planes and volumes, right? And of course there are different methods how we can create these forms. So first method on the top, you can see my cursor. This is by birth. Birth means that there isn't such form in the environment, but we create that form from nothing, from zero. So that is by birth. Then by surface, what is by surface? By surface is that we are imagining, like for example, this is one of the blocks, or imagine you see in a building, right? There's columns and things like that protruding. So can we imagine that this belongs to something more from the outside? Right, so it's imaginary protrusion into the space. So this is to take the existing surface that are already inside this space itself, to take it as if it's one of the volume that were protruded from outside. So imagine, extend your imagination to that protrusion or that little king, in your space to be something else, right? So that is to make use of existing surface to create that form. And then the third method is by projection. So of course, this is more obvious. This is really projected. And these are methodology that we use a lot, especially when it comes to exhibition space or museums. Okay, then next we have the characteristics of forms. So first diagram, we see it, this is more like a permanent form, right? And then the second one, we talk about their transient forms as well. So transient meaning that it's not always there. And then the next one is temporary forms that are there but are not there maybe in a moment. So these are the characteristics of forms. And then the other characteristics, we talk about the opacity, that means totally non-transparent, and then the translucent, which is normally our second layer of skins or some perforated panels or things that are not absolutely transparent. And then lastly, we come to the transparent medium. So these are the different type of skins we can apply. Okay, then we talk about the different interaction between forms. So these are some of the common interaction, things like intersection, so one intersecting to the other, and then intertwining. And then we talk about things in series. So these are not touching each other, but appear as a set. So these are a series formation. And then we have a stack formation. And then we have a dissect formation to presume that the two areas are being cut into half. Later, we'll show you more in terms of application, how this can be used. So this is dissecting. So assuming that the purple color side is the outer crust and then the red color is the inner skin, right? So these are the things that we can perform to a particular space or forms within the space. Okay, then we have adjacent. Adjacent means that they are not touching each other, but visually they are still within the same view cone. Okay, then these are the methodology. I have six. I have concluded into 6 set of methodology. So if you don't understand what it is here, you can actually use the top right corner as a simple simple diagram, a simple cartoon to help you understand what that methodology means. So the 6 methodology, the first one will be intrusion. So it's like from the outside to the inside. So just now we remember we talked about the formation of forms by surface, right? So if you were to recognize this existing form or to take something and imagine there are extension to the outside. So as long as there are something that is imaginary coming from outside or physically coming from outside to the inside. So that's what we call the intrusion manner. And this may not always be a curtain wall, a glass curtain walling. It could be an opaque wall, and then the outside part may not really exist. So we can pretend that this volume that you created or is already there to be part of a much bigger volume that comes in from the outside. So that depends on how you put your narrative, you know, how you angle your narrative to make your storytelling more interesting. Okay, then the next method is complementary. So if you look at this diagram, these are all curtain walling. Have you all came across architecture that can be totally boring, you know, with a lot of curtain wall, a lot of glass, but it's almost featureless, right? So there are a lot of examples I have in my book as well to explain some of these case studies that are really boring glass house that we have to use the interior to kind of spice up the whole entire architecture, right? So this diagram shows clearly that this intrusion or rather this in this architecture that we have created, the interior architecture that we created forms part of the total view from the architecture point of view from the outside because of the curtain walling that exists here. So that's why it's called complementary. It's complementing the architecture. Okay, then the next is division. So division, if you look at this center injected volume, is actually a volume by itself with a space internally. But what is more important is its function as a division. So it divided this entire space into 2 different spaces, but itself containing a third one, right? So allowing this main space, you know, to be done in a different finishes and different colors, but this inherently is one space, right? So this by division means that you cut the space, you know, so creating an entirely new spaces from there. Okay, sculpture is one method that actually, like the name suggests, it sits nicely in the corner like this and not affecting the entire space at all. So these are common in large shopping center, whereby, like for example, if you are commissioned to do a cafe, that you can actually do some of the interior facade, of the cafe itself, floating in a big shopping center. So those are by sculptural method. So like this, see, like imagine this is the whole full shopping center, and then with this nice sculpture tucked nicely in a corner, not affecting the rest of the space, but creating a space in itself. So that's by sculptural method. Okay, then next one is fragmentation method. So fragmentation, like the name suggests, is all scattered, right? So if you look at this diagram, the space itself, the mezzanine level here, the light fittings, the furniture, the counter, the benches, these are all seemingly unrelated items, right? But somehow we can group them into what we call a family of forms. So these are by fragmentation method, whereby this belongs to one visual family. So we call them family of forms. Yeah, they may not be touching each other. They may not even relate to each other in terms of their function, but they are visually linked, right? So these are methods that we can use in our space, to intertwine. Okay, then the last method is a compressed method. So like the name suggests, there are different ways of intersecting between the volumes with each other. So these are what we call compressed. That means there are no one methodology that can explain the relationship. Okay, it's all having different relationship, forming different volume. So these are the most complex of the methodology. Okay, then we look at the application. So today, because of the restraint of time, I have picked up 3 different projects to showcase how we apply the methodology to actual spaces and actual projects of mine. Okay, in fact, in the book, I will cover 6 different type of spaces that I have done, in the past 20 years. So covering from residential to food and beverages, F&B spaces, to institutional spaces, to hospitality spaces, to retail spaces and workspaces. But today I'll just cover 3 types of spaces. So first one we look at is the retail spaces. So one example of this, okay, this one is called the Tianfeng is the name of the brand itself. Okay, so what they do traditionally, they do a lot of teak wood furniture. So I think in Indonesia you'll be very familiar with teak wood. So TAK, teak wood. So teak wood furniture, these are importers of traditional teak wood furniture. So when they approached me years back to revamp the stores, and we discuss about new products. So I help them with their new products first. So I reinvent the furniture system into modular systems. If you can see vaguely from my cursor here. So these are modular system that can actually do they can be set in a variety of backdrop, like wall paneling and even open dividing shelf and things like that. So there are unlimited use to the kind of teak wood furniture, and it's a lot simpler to manufacture as well. So when I invented when I kind of researched the new product for them, they has extended the services to us to help them do up their series of concept stores that house their new products, right? So that's where this project started. But today I'm not going to talk about products. I'm talking more on the space itself. Okay, so imagine this. You can see from here, right? I zoom in. Okay, this is a storefront. So imagine the red line. This is inside a shopping center. The context. This is on the 4th story of a shopping center that sells building materials, right? If you are familiar with that kind of setting, and this, in fact, if you see this line where my cursor is, these are actually the outline of the stores. So what they were asking us to do from the initial stage is to just have glass, to cover this area, to create a standard shop front for them. But being on the 4th floor, that's where just now I mentioned the detective and the explorer, right? So our detective job, of course, is to go to the site to analyze the situation. So coming to this site, this is a project in Kunming. Kunming is in Yunnan in China. So coming to this shopping center on the fourth story, I realized that although it's facing an atrium, it's a small atrium, but somehow it's so far up that the third and fourth story are almost uninhabited. So normally people don't go that far, right? So there's usually no business, just to put it in a very candid way. So I wanted to create something more spectacular, right? So something that is more eye-catching, especially when you're walking in from the shopping center at the ground floor. We want something to catch their attention on the fourth story. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the fourth story, we need something really really obvious. So what I do is I have broken the whole plan, into something very different. So this is we created a entrance module. So this entrance module is like, it looks like, if you're familiar with Star Wars, this is like the ramps coming down. So, but of course this ramp cannot move, it's too heavy. So this is just a ramp going up. We created a platform here, seemingly that look like a machine, So this is what we call the entry module. So entry module is actually tilted to one side. So when we look at the plan, you understand what I'm saying. Okay, so this is the other side of the entrance module. So that's where the reception is. And then from the front view, we created an entrance module that actually goes right in. So from the plan later, I'll explain to you how we conceptualize this space. So this protrusion, these forms that we created, actually, because it's not actually 90 degree with the shop front, so somehow it kind of break the momentum, it break the monotony between all the stores on the side. So the rest of stores are all just glass wall, with big logo, big signage. So we created the whole entire form. So my argument, there's always the trick. My argument to the traditional owner wanted the logo to look really big, right? If you do commercial project, you realize your client will tell you, the logo is not big enough. I want something big so that everyone can look at my logo. Unless you are McDonald's or Starbucks, so nobody really needs to look at your logo in that kind of size. So, and people may not even recognize it, especially for other brands, they are not commercially successful yet. Like for example, this particular brand. So I said, so what if your brand is that big? Do people know what it means? You won't, unless you have 1,000 stores in the same city. Probably yes. So if not, then this will become what in Chinese what we call Chinese we call 画龙点睛, meaning that to draw the dragon and then finally drawing the eyeball, which is the spirit of the dragon. So this is like the spirit, the signage. You don't need to be big, just like how we express to each other. You look at your eyes are the spirit of you, not your whole entire face and your body. Okay, so these are the different angle. This is from the entrance module. The back wall is actually a pivot panel that can be closed when the shopping center closes. So leaving the reception counter open. So this entrance module also act as a small little museum, because our product is in modular format. So a lot of people may not know. They come in to look at the end product. They may not know how this thing can work, how this thing can be shifted, to replace with a wall panel. The cabinet can come in to replace another wall panel, So these are the kind of, it's just like when you're selling Lego in the first place, you invented Lego and then you have to explain to people how this Lego blocks system works, right? So this entrance module act as a small little explanation museum to people who wants to visit this store, as a filtration pot as well. So this is the sketches where we come out with, half of these are sitting inside the store, half of it are protruding outside the store. Okay, then because of the module that we created, they are all in 300 by 300 module. So we even have a retail corner that sells all the different modules that are coded, like pizzas, so they can be stacked with code number, and then people can go go to the showroom and then they like what they see and then come here to pick up the code number that they needed, right? Then on top, we make use of the double volume space to create a office working space for their designers so that they don't occupy the valuable retail showroom spaces. Okay, this is the inside. That's why I meant the entrance module. Half of it, if you see this faint line, this is actually the glass wall. Half of it are actually inside the module that leads you from the outside to the inside of the showroom, right? So these are all the different display on the inside, you know, the wall panel, the doors, and so on. Okay, I will zoom into the plan so that you have a proper visual of these. Okay, so you see, like what I mentioned, this line is actually the storefront, right? So traditionally, we would have built the glass entrance here, you know, but we eat into our own space, you know, to create something more interesting. So in this sense, we actually make the owners claim to us that, you know, although we make the space smaller physically, but the space now appears bigger, right? So that is the kind of magic we can do with the correct implementation. So from here, this is the entrance module, like I mentioned earlier. So this is a reception counter. So this wall panel is meant for all the display to explain how the modules work. And then this is the pivot door that we saw with the TV. So this pivot door will close at night, you know, when the store closes. And then stairs leads up to the office, and these are all the different display: bedroom display, living room display, wine cabinet display, door samples, and so on. Okay, I will superimpose this with the okay, with this color coding, the methodology. Okay, if you look at this, entrance modules, this is by intrusion method. Remember the one coming from outside to the inside. So this kind of scenario we create ourselves. So not necessarily the intrusion must be something that is already there. It can be something that you create, you know, and you create your own boundary. So this is outside, this is inside. So this thing actually transcend from the outside to the inside. So this become an intrusion method methodology. Then the blue one are what we call the sculptural, because these are things that are tucked to the side, including this walk-in wardrobe showroom. So these are created to tuck nicely on the side, but they are not related by form. So this is by sculptural method. They sit nicely in the corner by itself. That has no relationship with the rest of the space. And then the door display that you saw in between the space, this is by division method. Why? Because this helps to divide the whole space into two separate, different nature of space altogether. Okay, next we touch on the hospitality space. Okay, this is a project in China as well, but in a different province altogether. This is in Pingjiang. Pingjiang is in few hours from capital city of Changsha. Changsha is the capital of Hunan, right? So, yeah, to give you a perspective of where Hunan is, if you are familiar with coronavirus that we all are very familiar by now, is in Hubei. So Wuhan is in Hubei. So Hunan is just the neighboring province to Hubei, right, where the coronavirus started. We did this way before lah. So anyway, so this is a small little boutique hotel that is part of a much bigger group of hotels that I helped to master plan as well. So this is the smallest group, but it's the most interesting group that I will pick up and talk about. Okay, if you see here, in fact, this whole area is very small. If you look at the area, it's only 850 square meters, including the slopes, including this little piece of land here. So if we see here, we are following my cursor. This is the reception building, or rather the what we call the public building. And then these are the 8 cabins that are sitting on the slopes of the hill here. Yeah. So each one house one set of guests, right? So with a little common area. Okay, so this is the entrance of the public building, the common building. So what we see here with the trellis, this is actually the public toilet. Okay, this is part of the mountainous resort. So you have and we have another hotel sitting on top of a hill with a swimming pool that cantilevers over the hill. And then we have another restaurant that are sitting in the middle of the boulder, right? So these are all kind of paved but wild areas. So there are forests right beside these, you know, and then there are just one little hill here going up, leading up to another forested hill, right? So these are all nature. So we need to create a kind of public center stop for people who are walking past this hotel to the other side of the hotel. So the toilet needs to be situated right in front of the entrance, right? So we use a double trellis system to kind of block the view and the smell of the toilet. And right next to the toilet is actually the restaurant. And then this sitting area, these are all restaurants. So it's covered, but not walled, right? So it's covered from, it's sheltered from rain. So this is a kind of what we call the open structure. And then this one will give you a better perspective, you know, of the really narrow land that this public building is sitting on. Yeah, so it's formulated by three. This architecture is formulated by three different structures. You know, namely your right cover, and then your left shelter, and then the center portion. So there are three different levels, step level. They are connected by steps. Right. So these are trellis area, and then this whole thing is sheltered but covered but unwalled. Okay, so it takes up the nice little path here, which is very narrow. So it's very challenging for us to create this structure to occupy the whole entire stretch. Okay, the original intention for the owner was to abandon this building to just create the cabin, but I managed to convince the owner that these tiny strips can also be populated. Don't waste it. Yeah, so that's where this thing comes about, to form an entrance, to form an entry volume to lead people up to the cabin, so that you have a sense of arrival, right? When you're heading up to your cabin, and it's very important. Okay, below here we see the different side. This is the main building, but the wall the hill facing side, okay, which is this side. No, it's facing the hill, and then this is the front part of it, and then this one is the part that's facing the paddy field, right? So you have a very nice view. Later we'll see from the plan. Okay, this is a cross section of the what I mentioned. The whole building is divided into three different sections. The big section, the right side section, and then the center section. Okay, so from the plan, we can appreciate the position even more. Okay, if you look at the main building here, the common building, this side, the orientation, we open up this side and then cover the other side more because of the hill facing, and then this side is more really on a full opening to appreciate the paddy field. It's a rice paddy field here. It's seasonal as well, but it's really nice and relaxing to look at. So we purposely opened up this area so that they are sheltered under the rain, but they can still have a full visual of the nature. They are right in front of them. So people pay good money to come here to be interactive with the nature, but at the same time get for the full amenities like TV, air condition, everything else, right? So this is the kind of 5-star comfortable outdoor resort that we are creating here, okay? And then each cabin, if I zoom in, you see, each cabin has its own sleeping unit. Okay, the bed, we devise it in such a way that they are on a roller track. So meaning that if someone wanted a much bigger king size bed, the two bed will combine, and it's actually sliding on the bed are actually sliding on the track, that is sitting on top of the bedside table. So the bedside table acts as the track to receive the bedding. So the bed can be split. Later we have a picture to show that as well. And then every of these room are accompanied by a very nice balcony in front that has full view of the hills in front. The view in front is very beautiful. Later we'll see from the picture. And then everyone has a nice bathroom that are also fully visually linked. And then all the bathroom are open to another outdoor, so-called covered outdoor area, right? We'll see that from picture as well. Okay, now with the color coding, we see the methodology applied to this. Okay, look at the main building first. So this is by sculpture method because it is by itself and it sits nicely in the whole landscape, right? So it's a very nice sculpture with the vast landscape provided. And then these are by intrusion method because we wanted to portray that this cabin actually protruded from the hill behind. So as if you have a hill and then you have this volume protruding out of the hill, right? So this is by intrusion method. Okay, this is standing at the rear of the main building, the public building that I mentioned. So this is the party field on the left side. And then this is the pathway where you walk from the entrance all the way that leads you up to the staircase to your cabin. Okay, so this platform area, and that these platform areas, which is this, it house all the sittings for the dining area. And then following my cursor, this is the restaurant preparation area. Okay, this one they have a small sushi bar with some confectionery like a cafe sushi kind of concept here, right? Which is here, you can see from this side, following my cursor. Okay, then up here, this top left picture is taken from in between the cabins. So you realize the cabins are all sitting on different platforms. The idea behind this design is to touch all the land lightly. Okay, so we don't want to destroy more than what we should. So by implementing a built structure, we wanted everything to be really eco-friendly, and we didn't want to do a cut and paste of the hill. So we actually follow the gradient of the field. And in fact, this hill itself, it's not a natural hill. If you're familiar with paddy rice farming, the hill are actually terraced lightly for the drying of the paddy. So they are not the terrace farming, they are just terrace for drying up the crops. So you don't see layer by layer, but there are some flat area and then followed by some slope and then some flat area again. So we make use of the existing terrain, to house our cabin in a nice way so that we don't need to excavate too much soil other than the one that we need to plant the columns in and the footings, right? And there are some light piling as well. Okay, so we try to not disrupt the existing landscape to a high extent, right? So these are all sitting on kind of the natural terrain level that they're supposed to be. Yeah, so these three front one sits on the same level, and we created a large platform. So now apparently a lot of families like to book the bottom cabin, and then they can have a family outing and then have barbecue here overlooking the paddy field. So it's a very nice feeling. And then this is looking from the top between the cabins. And if you see, there are different texture. These are full wood panels. All these wood panels are recycled from the villages nearby. So it's totally eco-friendly. And we just apply some new layers of oil, to preserve it. And then what you see at the back, the extension, these are trellises. So what are these trellises? These are again what we call the double trellis system, whereby from outside you can't see the inside, but from inside you can have some light coming through the gaps. Yeah, so these house the toilets as well as the outdoor gardens behind the cabin, right? So this is the space in between. And bottom picture shows the little alley between the two cabins. So it's still a very nice and close and safe space. And also I'd like to mention, you realize we have this top crown here, which is a strip. So these are reflected, these are light reflector because of the proximity of the cabin. when we reflect light, if you follow my cursor here, you see these are light reflector of the reflector. Because of the proximity and the closeness of the cabin, we are able to actually use the light in one cabin to provide the common area with sufficient lighting at night, right? Without installing new new street lights. So this is the good advantage of being very close to each other. And this is the front of one of the cabin, sitting on top of another set of cabin, right? So we created this to have everything hidden. Okay, the trick about this cabin is that we need to keep, normally when you do architecture, you just need to kind of, you have 4 facades only, right? But for this cabin, we have a higher challenge. We have 6 facades. Why do I say 6? Because other than the 4 walls, we have the top to take care of. So as you see, this cabin is sitting on top of another one. These are all trellises that covers the condenser unit of the aircon, the heaters, and so on. So everything is hidden here by trellis system. So this facade, the top facade also needs to be covered. And then we have the bottom facade as well, right? So the underneath of the cabin, some of the cabin are cantilevered to the outside. So the bottom of the cabin also needs to be treated nicely. So all these cabin all have 6 facades to look at. And this is one of the bigger bin with the extension of the garden. Just now we are seeing the outside of it. This is the inside of it, right? So this is the toilet, and toilet are open, are linked to the back garden by a folding sliding door that can be tucked nicely to the side, extending the full contact, from the outside to the inside. So it's very nice, especially when it's raining. And in Hunan, there are 4 seasons. Sometimes you have light snow. So yeah, so sometimes even when it's raining, you can even open this and then have a shower here, as if you are actually showering in the big nature. Okay, so these are another view. The top one, if you follow my cursor, this is toilet overlooking the bedrooms. Okay, just now when we say visually link between the toilet and the bedrooms, this is what it is. Here is the glass panel, and then there are timber wooden door. These doors are also recycled from the villagers. So these doors, we got it from some of the village house that were demolished, to give you a bit of nostalgic feel. Yeah. Then over here, this is the balcony view. And then this one is also balcony view and overlooking the roof of the other 2 cabins. Okay, then bottom here, okay, that's what I meant. When the bed can be separated by sliding on top of the bedside table, to become two super single, and then you combine them to become a big queen, right? Okay, then this bottom part is another unit with a smaller back garden. So the smallest one will have at least a 1 meter little garden attached to the bath. So there's also a folding sliding door here. Okay, even though 1 meter, we need to provide this door because this is not in our tropical region. This one is in China. This is in a temperate zone whereby there are 4 clear seasons. So the winter can be as cold as -5 degrees to -10 degrees. So it's very cold. So we need to provide for all 4 seasons in a so-called tropical setting house like this. So these are all season proof in a way. Okay, then these are some night scenes. Okay, these are taken from the hill beside the cabins. So that's how it looks like at night. Very safe environment, but very secluded at the same time. So every person inside the cabin actually gets to enjoy total privacy without feeling the danger of the outdoor, because the outdoor without the lighting is actually very dark, very scary. Okay, so this is the main building being lit up, and then this is the alley, same alleyway but at night, right? Okay, yeah, so this is the far view of it. So as I mentioned, this one oversee another few more hills, a series of hills in front. So it's very nice scenery. So all these the cabin are situated in such a way that they don't obstruct each other's view, right? So everyone has their own vantage point, and then you must be asking, why are they all not at the same angle, right? Yeah, so because each one is facing a specific knoll or hill, right? So each one has its unique viewpoint. different from one another. Okay. Okay, last we touched on residential space that many of you may be even more familiar with. Okay, so from large to small space, this is one of our most recently completed one that is completed during the pandemic. Yeah, so this one is actually a penthouse in Singapore, right? So it's a very high ceiling penthouse, almost 4.5-meter high, you know. Then we wanted to create a setting. The context of this is that it's a young couple with two very young kids, toddler kids. And then sometimes the parents, they are actually Chinese nationals, so the parents will visit them at some point, you know, a few times a year, you know. So they wanted to create kind of a young environment, but they are still respectful to the parents. So parents wanted something, you know, that is not totally out of this world, so they are more comfortable when there are some Chinese elements, so their cultural elements being pleasant, right? And then the young ones are collectors of fabric. If you are familiar, BAR fabric. So fabric is all these bear. So these are the 1000%, which is a very big size one. So they are avid collectors of it and wanted a place that can house all these. Okay, so we combine all these briefs together and create a kind of a narrative saying that this fabric arrived from outer space, landing on this top of the tree. And interestingly, this condominium is called the tembusu. So tembusu is a type of trees, and this is actually the penthouse. So it's sitting on top of the tembusu. So we say that the narrative goes that this fabric spaceship landed on top of the tembusu, and that is what you see here. You know, this not aluminium vault here that we see. Okay, this aluminium vault, later I'll show you how I treat them. So it's a very simple house, but we give it more layers and to kind of enchant it with more interesting narrative. So this can only be done with the methodology that I'm using here. So later I'll show you how we approach. Okay, so from here, later we'll come back to this picture again anyway. Okay. So this is another view of the vault, the house or the fabric. If you don't know what fabric is, this is it. These are the big one. Okay, these are not the little small keychain that you see from outside. If you were to compare these seats, this is a lounge chair. This is the living room area. You compare the size, you know how big the bear is really, right? So the ceiling is very, very high anyway for residential. Okay, so this is the explorer diagram that I'm trying to show how the volume links. So the black glass area you see from the entrance. So we created the whole black glass entrance portal to link with the inside volume. So the inside volume include the kitchen and all the rooms and also the extended cabinet outside. Later we'll see from the picture as well. And then there's another volume which is this aluminium vault, which is here. And then we link this all the way to the back. So from the back, it looks like a inserted volume that extend from here across the corridor to the back of the family room. Okay, then the Chinese roof. Okay, this roof is done, you know, to kind of give a bit of cultural link back to their roots, their Chinese roots, you know, to show that this is occupied by an affluent Chinese family, right? Okay, so from the plan, we can understand this in a much clearer context. Okay, if you look at the display vault, which is here, just now what you saw, the aluminium vault. So this is the front of it. This is the entrance. We created a glass portal, you know, that links to the inside. And of course, I think this thing cannot be protruded because this sense of entrance, this is tucked to the wall, the entrance door. So we wanted to create something that is more soothing rather than obstructive right in front of it. So that's why it has to be a curved corner to give it a nice little feel. That this expression is extended to the back. If you follow my cursor, to the back of it, which forms the family room portal as well. So this whole thing are seen as one injection, right? And then living room here, dining room here, and then just now the other glass, the black glass part, it covers this newly built outdoor cabinet that we built in that will house this extendable feast table, which I will show you how they can be kept. If you see the folding line, this can be folded up all the way and hidden inside this 18-seater table, very big, can be hidden inside all this cabinet, including all the chairs as well, can be hidden inside all this cabinet, right? So this cabinet is an extension to the dry kitchen. We give it a new treatments, you know, to link this whole thing to the back here as one volume. Okay. And then just bring you around the house before I put in the color code to show you how the volumes are divided. Okay, if you are moving along with my cursor to come in here, okay, this is a corridor that divides the public area and the private area. Apparently, this is a very big, very big penthouse that occupies kind of 3 units. So traditionally, if you follow the footprint downstairs, this will be 1 unit, 2 unit, and then the 3rd unit here, right? So this penthouse cover all 3, and then we need to divide the public area from the private. So this corridor, we actually encase a swing door that can be hidden along the corridor. When it's open, you can't see the door because it's flush with the wall panel. So when it's open, you will cut this area into 2. Okay, the public area, because the owner entertains a lot, as you can see from the tables here. They usually have some mini parties and things like that. So the kids are really young with the maids, so they are all hidden at the back, you know, when they are entertaining guests. And also it helps to act as an air conditioning block, you know, so that it doesn't waste the energy. Okay, then this is the family area, and then this leads to all the different bedroom with their bathroom, and then master bedroom is on the right side with their own giant roof terrace here. Yeah, right. And then they have a walk-in wardrobe here, and we turn the study into a liquor room because the owner is a collector also of hard liquor, a lot of them. Later I'll show you in the picture as well. Okay, so bottom here we see the ceiling plan. Okay, I go on to the color code so you can see them more clearly. Okay, this one is a fragmentation method already. Okay, so why is it fragmentation method? Because this volume, this aluminum volume, links to the, remember the lights that were dropping down from the Chinese roof. Yeah, so these are the one that are visually linked to this volume, and these are also all linked to the ceiling treatment of each of the bedroom, right? But in a subtle way. So these are all by fragmentation method. And then if you can remember the glass volume that we created on the entrance, and then the one that I mentioned earlier, the cabinet that housed the 18-seater table. Yeah, so these are all the glass block, you know. And then these are all by intrusion method, right? Because this one we want to express as if it looks like a volume that were intruded from the outside to the inside of the house. So that's how we can make use of the existing surface to act as a volume that were intruded from outside. And same for this entrance volume as well. Yeah, and then for the bed, this one is a standalone because we need to create a special bed for owner. So this one is by sculptural method. Okay, so this is the family room. So remember the front where we house the fabric. So this fabric volume will come back and form and that continues to the back of the family room. So the TV is actually cased inside this black glass. So when it's on, in fact, it's on where you could see the TV from. Yeah. So this one we created a drawer. So this is a glass drawer that can be pushed out, you know, to connect the TV's cable and things like that. So normally once you connected all the player, you don't need to touch that panel anymore. You know, when you off it, you don't see it at all. So it's a nice glass panel, and then when you on it, the TV will shine through. And then this tinted glass actually can receive infrared as well. So infrared can go through without you worrying about the contact, whether you can on the TV with a remote control or no, you can do that. Okay, then we come back to the front. Okay, this one is quite interesting. You realize the back is a mirror, right? So this one we created an infinity volume for them. Infinity meaning that the space are reflected 1,000 times inside this space. So it looks like the bag are coming out from a very, very deep volume that were reflected, double refraction that caused the kind of infinity mirror that actually goes right into the space. So this volume, it looks as if it has a very, very deep space behind the bare display itself, right? And then these are the crowd. So the narrative was the bear landed on the spaceship on the top of the Tembusu, right? So these are like the canopy, you know, this panel, wooden panel, like the canopy that extend all the way to the back, right? Then just now the door that we mentioned that divides the public and the private space is here, right? So it can be closed up to divide the two space without visually cutting them into half. Okay, so this is the 18-seater table that was hidden inside this panel. So when it's fully extended down, this is how long it is, and then the seats can be lined up. All these seats can be folded up and tucked into the cabinet. Okay, then the hard liquor display or vote. This is the one that I mentioned beside the master bedroom. This is the one, and then we created an infinity ceiling for them as well, so that everything can be reflected up because the space is actually quite tight. And the cocoon bed that we created, okay, because the owner is very they are very protective of their child, so they like to play with the kids on the bed, so they asked us to actually custom made a bed for them, so that when the child fall off the mattress, they are still landing on padded platform here, and then these are all curved in like a cocoon, so that when their blinds are not fully closed in the morning, this help to kind of shield off some of the immediate lighting, and then also help to provide the light on the ledge for their reading purposes, right? And then this bed nicely, this is by sculpture method that we injected this furniture as a volume, you know, to overlook the very nice roof terrace that they have in front of them. Okay, so for this, I come to the end of my lecture. Thank you.
Okay, Keat. Sorry, man. Okay, sharing such a amazing methodology that consistent from the how you see the form making in terms of the and how you touch the materiality of space. So we have like a time to we have the time for like 10 minutes, I think, for the discussion. And then I think I just want to start the discussion. Keat, I just want to know how you always saying like a methodology, Keat. What's the relevant idea in the process? How you find that kind of tapered form into the how did it start in terms of when you see the space? What's your consideration? Is it the scale, or is it the all of this kind of imagination, or how does it start? It seems like you can always fit into this your I count it like a 6 point of your methodology in terms of form making. But the question is, what is the consideration of choosing one to another? How did you find the appropriateness of each of the method, Keat? This I think is a very take as a final design thinking on your process.
Okay, in fact, for each kind of space, they are all unique. That's why I think in the front, I have the explorer and the detective to kind of emulate the kind of process all designers have to go through. So in fact, if you look at all the different projects that I've done and featured in the books, they are all of varied forms and different from one another. So the whole methodology is really it's not a form making exercise or form making shortcut. It's not. It's in fact to identify the relationship between the forms that you are going to create, or to identify certain of the forms that are
harus
already
linear itu pasti gitu. Maksudnya nggak otomatis toh, karena kadang teman-teman itu ya museum pasti linear. Gitu.
Okay, please go on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So the thing is the methodology helps you to identify there certain potential for forms to be created. But when it comes down to the what we call stylistic approach or form searching exercise, is an entire new exercise for each project. Okay, so the methodology doesn't tell you that the form will appear like this or like that. It doesn't dictate that. So it only allows you to identify the potential of the form and how the forms actually interact with each other, right? And how you can envision to be. So these are the things that it is creating the whole form, but it doesn't tell you the aesthetic approach how the form is, because every project is unique. That's why we need to do our investigative role for each project. Like for example, if you are dealing with a Chinese project, and Chinese has 50 over culture, so you gotta understand what is your base context and what are the kind of motif that you are applying to create something. But in terms of form exercise, is the same throughout. Like for example, I've showed one architecture project and two interior. So the approach, why I do that is that to demonstrate that the approach is similar, be it that you are in a different environment and different context, you can apply the methodology to identify the potential to create forms. Yeah, and then how these forms comes together or interact together. These are the different initiatives to help kind of start off the whole process, right? So usually for most of my project when I started is to look at the plan, right? And then start to group them into potential forms that can be created. So that's how we can create very interesting interior project despite given a very small space like a residential one. Yeah.
Okay. Given at your explanation, Keat, I saw that our potential of the culture in how's the position of the culture inside the project or your methodology? Is it about in the materiality or about how to twist the stylistic basis, or I mean, can you define it more? I mean, elaborate more into that?
Okay. Again, I think for each project, they are. I like to say they are always 101 or 1001 method to redefine certain culture. Like for example, we did not want to end up in a stigma. Like for example, if I have chance in the future, I will share with you all even on our museum project. That is the really difficult one, because there are so many elements within a single culture. And these are the one that we need to convince the government level. You know, you have to go through at least 5 tiers of officers at different level to convince them that this is a good representation of their culture, right? So we have to be able to be convincing, and you have to find new ways to reinterpret, because we as designer or architect, we didn't want to fall into a cliche, that's how people do it. Like for example, if you look at Thai design, there is a Thai signature Thai curved roof. Do you want to create another architecture of the same format? We have, especially when we are not doing a restoration project, we are doing a brand new project with the essence of the culture. So we may have to relook how some of these elements can come together to formulate something new. But of course, I think any new things without a good narrative, it will fall short to convince your client that this is the right way to do. So I think the narrative and the storytelling aspect of it is also very important. How you form this into a new formation rather than an easily recognizable shape.
Okay, I call this one like a genuine synthesis. That in Indonesia as well, we have like a many cultures, right? I mean, sometimes we need to be aware of while we are like trapped into like some traditions or without like having a new explorations. Another questions I'm trying to dissect into I mean there is one question in the chat box, but I think we have discussed it. Another question will be the budget, Keat. And have you considered all of this methodology to considering about the budget at the first beginning of your project, or the interesting question is how you manage the design limitations if the client say, okay, Mr. Keat, I mean, I have this certain type of budget. The budget is not so big, but I want to do it maximum, and I want you to explore how to find your methodology appropriate for this kind of client, huge demands of exploration, but a limited budget. Can you explore, Keat?
Okay,
Thank you.
I think it comes down to the materiality. So to start with, normally, not all clients would review budget, especially the smaller project. But for big project, of course, you are given tens of millions, so those are the raw budget. But of course, I think with the raw budget, we are not accountants. We don't take, how much left if you're doing design. Okay, minus off, just cancel off the spreadsheet. No, we don't do that. So the thing is, we, from experience, we will know that, this is a 1 million project, or is this a 10 million project, or is this a 50 million project? So if it's a 50 million project, the experience will tell you that, okay, I can go to a certain limit. But after that, you have to come back, especially for smaller projects, you have to come back to a bill of quantity, what we call the BQ. So the BQ are your partners. So if it's a turnkey project, design and build project, then you will have to work alongside. But of course, I think to avoid, I hate it when there's a lot of restriction when it comes to creative process. So the thing is, I will just acknowledge the big budget, and after that, I will go in, I will deep dive into the creative process. And then after that, the next round, we will work with, if it's a design build project, we will work with the builder, to do a raw quotation, of the project itself, to make sure that we are still within the boundary. But the rest of it, we have to massage along the way. So but what I'm trying to say is, I will try, I'm not sure I can advise you to do so, but I will try not to get restricted by the budget in the first place. But if the budget, from your experience, if it's ridiculously low, then probably you might have to tell the owner whether it's doable. I mean, if it's not doable, just tell him, to do something of your aspiration, it will need at least 5 times the budget. Do you even have half of it? If not, then we will have to use another approach, or rather, maybe you don't even need that much.
Yes.
First place. Yeah. And also, I think interestingly, for eco project, right, not all the good projects are expensive projects. So sometimes it can come down to your cleverness, how you apply certain material in certain space. And also, I think we in schools, we learn about proportion, we learn about the materiality, we learn about contrast. So sometimes it's just about contrasting the correct material, not necessarily the expensive one, in the right place with the right proportion, you will hit the magic.
Fantastic. It's it's very sensitive in the design thinking. Keat, I think it's already 7:30. I'm just about to call some of the usually we have the another people just to have an interpretation of your presentations usually. Mas Revi mau nanggap nggak? Kalau enggak apa-apa. Okay. If not, I'll just. Do you want to? I will need your closing statement, Keat, before I conclude your presentation. I will give a conclusion of your very exciting, very imaginative to see the methodology to help the design process. I think I'm really great that we have these sessions. Do you have a closing statement, Keat, just to show the complexity of the design process? Yeah. Yes. Do you want to have a closing statement, Keat?
Oh, for me, I thought you are concluding.
Oh, I'm concluding now. After that, you can have a closing statement. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, from the Keat presentation, we can see that the design has context. I think one is about the birth of the forms. It could be like understanding the surface that belong to the existing, and in that process we need to be sensitive. And sometimes it's all about the projection of the idea, and it's like having a museum inside the museum inside the retail, museum inside the hospitality. It's like all of the things about the ideas of the materiality and showcasing the design work. And there are in the Keat way, and there are like a six methodology that I can count. The first one is the intrusions, second one is complementary divisions, is the divisions, the fourth one is the sculpture, the fifth is the fragmentation, and the sixth is the compressed. Which I can see there are three case studies that he tried to introduce, but in that kind of three case studies, he shows the complexities of the methodology can be combined. He keep mentioning about the being a detective, like being a sensitive, like a dissecting all of the potential of the site, even though the site is small, but don't treat it like it's small, even though the site is in the fourth floor of the shopping mall. Don't pretend it like it's a weakness. So you need to just always challenge it. I recall the first project is very interesting because of it has the tapered form which showcase the entrances, and when you enter it and you see another door, when you see another door you see the smaller space and you see the fragmentation. And I can feel that there are some of the certain outside the space. And in the second project is a lion dance. I can it's like using he said like six facades, and it's like using I call it like a broken natural order. It's like the cabins are designed to look like a protruded volumes. He said like originating from the outside the hills. It's a good demonstration of interaction technology. But I can see that there are like detailed ceilings, walls, like a sensitivity of your taking care of details, which is quite exciting and quite pleased to see all of this. Latest one, the Tembusu penthouse, and there is a manner of how to put a party in terms of the fragmentation method, how the ceiling, the walls, the sculpture for the bed, and the soft touch of the design, like a curve-in techniques, is very detailed. I feel pleased that Keat shared all of that grammars. I think and I think I try to question Keat about the how the position and appropriateness of his methodology, but he said like there are like 1,000 ways of the innovations, and at the end the good projects is always about the sensitivity in terms of the acknowledging the potentials, and then knowing your client's limit and have a courage to say if you need not only the budget, like the frequency of the thinking, the design ideas, and there is like a appropriate budget for it. So I think that's my conclusion for your presentation, Keat. It's very amazing, and to see all of the projects, even though it's only 3, but it's so rich, Keat. I'm waiting to see more projects from you. I mean, of course, I hope that some of the projects later. Do you have any comment, Keat, just to conclude your presentation?
Your conclusion is as detailed as my explanation. So very good. Yeah. So in fact, what you guys saw just now is actually part of the extract of the book I'm publishing. So if everything goes well, it should be published by either late this year or early next year. Yeah. So by then, hopefully, we can make some announcement the Indonesian community as well.
Fantastic, Keat. There will be one in Omah Library. That will help you to spread the information about your work. Okay, Keat.
Yeah, it's a 400 pages book lah. Anyway, it's very thick.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Keat, for your presentation. And then thank you so much, Nirma and Hanifa for arranging this, and Satria and Lulu for helping arranging this venue in Omah Library. I'll just give the session back to Nirma as a host. Nirma.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for Mr. Keat with your humbleness for sharing about your great projects and the forming method behind it. And I also respect your efforts to create an eco-friendly design. I hope the book publishing goes well too. And also, thank you for Kak Rich who moderate this event very well. And lastly, I would like to thank all who have joined in tonight's event, Contextual Method Architecture Discourse Class Session 3 with the title Interiority, Injecting Architecture. And allow me to reminding again once more that we still have another 4 sessions for Contextual Method class. For the 4th session, there is Albert Pramono, and then Elora Hardy, and then Marcus Roslip, and the last is Paulus Mintarga. For those of you who are interested, registration is still open by bit.ly/muda3. Tomorrow, there is also Darah Muda class on 7 p.m. This is the second class out of 5 classes. The second class that will be held will invite Ismail Solehuddin as the speaker. For those of you who are interested, registration is still open by visiting bit.ly/Omah_Muda. Thank you and see you on the next occasion.